To say I'm excited for phase 1 of this living room makeover would be an understatement. To begin my living room makeover for phase 1, the very first thing I did was head to Pinterest. If you've been with me long enough, you know I love Pinterest. I love creating a mood board, and what I do is I will create a board within Pinterest and I will name it. For this, I named it Living Room Makeover Ideas. And you can make your board private or you can keep it public. And in that board, I pinned anything that was beautiful to me, that was aesthetically pleasing. Maybe I like the color, the textures, the furniture, whatever it was, I pinned everything into that board. And then from there, this took me some months. And from there, what I did was I narrowed it down to everything that kind of went together. I could see a pattern. I could see, okay, I liked this color, this furniture, these textures, and then I deleted the other ones that did not fit with the look I was going for. And when it comes to actually making over a room, I do like to write everything out. I have created a printable for the process I'm getting ready to share with you. This is how I do projects in my home. I know there are a lot of printables out there for doing projects to help guide you. This is my thought process, so maybe it can help someone else. If you're interested in printing it for yourself, I will leave it linked in the description box. So the first thing I do is I will write down whatever project I'm working on. For this one, I am doing the living room. I also write down my plan. Now my plan, this is very rudimentary. You're going to just write down anything that you want to do to that room. For the room so far for phase 1, because I do like to break all of my projects up into phases. For phase 1, I wanted new flooring. I wanted to paint the walls and the back door. I wanted to hang my curtains, and I also wanted to purchase a new fireplace screen. So then once I have that very vague kind of plan, what I do is I break it down into tasks. And on the printable, I also put an area if you're going to hire this out or if you're going to do it yourself. So starting with the flooring, I will write down the flooring and everything that it will take to do that process. The very first thing I did when it came to the flooring was measured the space. Once I had my measurements, I went online and I compared prices. Once I found something that was in my budget and also in the tones that maybe I thought I would like, I ordered samples. And I ordered maybe 10 or 15 samples of flooring. I had them all. I would put them all together, kind of seeing the different tones and textures, maybe what would look good in the room, maybe what would go with the foyer because they're butted right up together. I wanted to be sure the flooring that I purchased was going to be the one that I wouldn't regret buying. And this did take a few months for me to finally decide which one I wanted, but I am the type of person I like to take my time and I like to order samples. Sometimes the samples, they can cost you a few dollars, but even if you spend like $50 on samples, it beats spending thousands on flooring that you're going to end up hating once you get it. And I also wrote down all the tools we were going to need and any other supplies that were needed to install the flooring. And then from there, I even went a little bit further and I was like, okay, we have to rip out the carpet. We have to get the padding out of here. We had to get up the excess glue along with the padding stuck to the glue. And I also like to put a complete by date. Now, this doesn't happen all the time, but if I have a deadline or I have a due date, it kind of pushes me a little bit more to get this done than just saying, okay, we'll get it done during the summer. And a lot of times it goes over into the fall. So having a date really helps you. And a lot of times you can work backwards. You can say, okay, I want the flooring done by March. And now it is January. Okay, so we're going to say I want it done by March 1st. So we're going to work backwards. We're going to say, okay, I need to have this done by this time and this done by this time because the floor needs to be totally empty. Everything has to be out of there by this date because it may take us 2 weeks to install the flooring. So you kind of work backwards from the date you want everything complete. I also like to keep my receipts in a little envelope. I like to write everything down. This helps me keep on track because it's very easy to go over budget if you're not looking at the numbers. So once I had everything planned out on paper, it was time to execute phase 1. all of the carpet and the padding up. Now we have to take care of the glue. They used quite a bit. And there's also something going on right when you go out the back door. I don't know if they dropped something because it looks like there is floor leveler on there. It looks like they've gouged some of the floor out, so we've got to take care of that. It's not the end of the world. But, you know, we got to tackle the glue. I'm not looking forward to that. And there's staples around here, so it's already been a long day, and it's going to be an even longer night. My brother-in-law works in construction, and we had him come over to look at the damaged area on the floor. He said it looked like it was a landing area where you would come in and take your shoes off. It was probably some wood flooring, maybe some tile, but it looks like they just kind of ripped it out of there, and maybe as they were doing that, they gouged some of the flooring out or the underlayment. So what he did was he cut out the section that was almost destroyed because it was really weak as we were standing on it, and all he did was replace it with another piece of plywood. Since my son and I had never done wood flooring before, my brother-in-law got my son started with a couple of rows, and then my son took it over from there, and he actually finished the rest of the room by himself. Okay, I managed to get 2 coats of primer on the door. It has now cured. It's been about 48 hours, and now I'm going to paint it. I'm painting it a beautiful tricorn black, which is the same color I painted the front door. Tricorn black is a paint color from Sherwin-Williams, but I have my paint mixed at Benjamin Moore. Don't think that just because you see a color you like at Benjamin Moore that you can't take that sample and have it mixed at, say, Lowe's or Home Depot or Ace Hardware, or whatever hardware store you have that mixes paint, because you can. I'm probably going to put about 2 coats of paint on the door, and I did choose a semi-gloss only because since this is a door and everyone's going to be touching it and getting it dirty, and I'm the one that has to clean it, I went for a semi-gloss instead of a satin. I do like a satin finish, but just not for a door. I've applied 2 coats of the tricorn black on the door. I do have a few little areas I need to touch up, and for the final coat, I'm going to roll it on. By rolling on the last coat, it's going to cover up any of the brush marks and just leave a smooth finish. And I also have some little areas I couldn't get into with my paintbrush, so if you've ever experienced that, what I would recommend is getting an artist paintbrush. They're about $1, $2. You can easily get into the cracks and crevices, and then when you're through, just throw in the trash. And I've also got to clean up the hinges. Once I finish everything, I will go back and take the paint off the hinges. I'll probably just use a little bit of sandpaper, maybe a little mineral spirits, it just depends. But yeah, I've got paint on here. Not all this is from me. Some of it's from the prior people that own the house, so don't judge. The door is complete. Now it's time to start on the walls. Okay, so I lied. We're not ready to paint the walls just yet. We first have to take care of a few prep steps. The first thing I'm going to do is fill and sand any holes. I'm filling any nail holes, gouges, or imperfections and lightly sanding them with 120 grit sandpaper. And I'm also going to caulk any areas where the crown molding has separated due to shrinkage. We use joint compound to fill in the grooves on the paneling, and while we already sanded it once, I am going to give it a second sanding just to be sure we didn't miss anything. I'm using a microfiber cloth to clean up any of the dust that has settled after sanding, and then I'm going to concentrate on the baseboards. I am going to use some all-purpose cleaner and a microfiber cloth to clean them before I start to paint. To protect the floors from any paint, I'm going to roll out this brown paper. I know what some of you are asking, why didn't I paint the walls before we started on the flooring? Well, it just so happened my son had time to go ahead and do the flooring before I ever got a chance to buy the paint or do any of the prep work, so I'm kind of working in reverse, so that's why I'm going to roll out the brown paper. I'm going to adhere it to the floor with some masking tape, and then I'm going to use my painter's tape to protect any areas I don't want to get any paint on. Okay. Now I think we're ready to paint. First I'm going to cut in, and then I'm going to roll the walls. After that I am going to paint the baseboards, and I think that'll be done when it comes to painting this room. Okay, let's see what is left on our to-do list for phase 1 of the living room makeover. New flooring, check. Paint walls and back door, check. Hang curtain rods and curtains and steam the curtains, and assemble the new fireplace screen. I already had the curtains and the curtain rod. I love these curtains. They are so high-end looking. Not that they were cheap, because they weren't. They came from JCPenney and I love them. They weren't on the inexpensive side, but they really weren't on the expensive side either, not compared to Pottery Barn or West Elm. Unfortunately, they have discontinued this style at JCPenney, and I love these. It is a pinch pleat drape. I love a pinch pleat. I think it looks very tailored. It looks very high-end. It looks very custom. I love the look of these drapes. And the curtain rod is an oil-rubbed bronze. So beautiful. I took everything out of the room and I took everything off of the windows when I started the makeover. So now I'm just going to rehang everything and steam the curtains. If you're noticing the painter's tape on this window along with the door, it's actually painter's tape inside of the sunroom, which is a room we'll make over sometime this year. I don't know when, so stay tuned. I have been looking for a fireplace screen for close to a year. No joke, close to a year. I wanted something in brass, and I wanted something that had doors on them. And I finally found what I was looking for on Pottery Barn's website. I have to say that Pottery Barn's customer service is superb. The first fireplace screen they sent us was damaged, so I went online, I sent an email, I even offered to send pictures. They went ahead and sent the second one out right away, and then they sent me the label just to mail the other one back, but it was like that. So I have to say the customer service is fantastic at Pottery Barn, and I am in love with this fireplace screen. The fireplace screen isn't quite wide enough for the fireplace. Our fireplace has a 48-inch opening. This is a 44-inch screen, but I bought this for 3 reasons. The first is I love the brass color. The second is I love the double doors. And thirdly, I have a friend who welds, and I asked him could he just weld a piece on each side of the fireplace just to make it wide enough to cover the opening. He said he could, and then all I'm going to do is paint it to match the brass. So now that phase 1 of my living room is done, I'm going to be moving on to phase 2. I don't know when that video will be out, but I'm going to have plenty of content for you guys to see this year. I'm going to be doing even more room makeovers along with organizational products. I'm going to be sharing how to style your home on a budget, whether that be thrifting or online shopping. I'm going to be sharing my tips and tricks on how to find some deep discounts online, along with sharing a weekly vlog that I'm going to be posting every Sunday. This is called Simply Sundays because I am simply sharing with you snippets of my life during the week as I try to get my life organized and my home organized for 2022. This will be behind the scenes. This will also be just items I'm getting in that I'm going to be using to decorate with, to style with, to organize my home with. This year, my word for 2022 is structure. I'm trying to get more structure in my life along with my home. So if you would like to join the journey with me, maybe you have areas in your home that you want to get organized, that you want to bring more structure to, I would love for you to join the community. And while you're hitting the subscribe button, don't forget to hit the notification bell twice, and I will see you at the next one.